Hi, I'm Glenn, City of Island Fishing Field Team, COAF Field Team, and this is podcast number 11, IFishNews Fishing Podcast, where to learn to fish by our trials and errors. And this round, we've got a few things we want to pick up, some runs that we did going up the road up Highway 75 to Denison Dam, a tail race to Lake Texoma. And there's several things that we want to just point out, maybe some lessons learned to keep in mind if you decide to go up there yourself. And then we've got some video, some comparisons as to what it looks like, at least the river, when they're generating and when they're not. So as it turns out, we went on a Tuesday, this past Tuesday, and fished Denison Dam, and they were generating the whole time we were there. And then we went the following day, Wednesday, and they weren't generating the whole time we were there. So one day we had a lot of water flow, and next day we had basically minimal water flow. And we want to just show maybe some specific areas that you want to keep in mind next time you decide to go up to Denison Dam. Maybe try for some of those striped bass. Alrighty, so let's start things off with in this picture here. This is Wednesday. You can see that the river is very low. But before we go there, let's go ahead and talk about first a few quick lessons learned, and then we'll go right into those different areas that we saw while we're out there. So first lessons learned, make sure you bring bait. Made the mistake of hoping to get some bait while we were up there at the formerly Dave's Ski and Tackle. Unfortunately, they were out of bait. And we were hoping for some shad. And it turns out there was none in the river, at least where we were casting our net. And then others were able to catch some shad, and they were able to do really well there. So takeaway from there is make sure you have bait before you go up there. We were going to try some chicken livers and whatnot and maybe get some of those catfish, but changed our mind, just said let's just go for it. And then when we didn't have any bait, luckily we had our different arsenal of things, be it the jig and fly or jig and fluke rig under a float where we cast it, as well as rattle traps, bombers, and surface lures, and all these other different lures. And unfortunately did not get anything there. Did bring a fly rod, so luckily when they were not generating, we were able to work the different pools and runs. Got one white bass, also had a one fish take and lost them, and then had several gar kind of chase our lure or our fly and not get anything at that point. But still, we did get one white bass on Wednesday when they weren't generating. We had several carp or buffalo on Tuesday when they were generating. And we had several misses where we had them on the line and they threw the hook on us. So it was a pretty tough go. And luckily we did see some other folks doing well. Again, shad was the key, live shad in particular. In this picture here, when the water was running, the striped bass were kind of lingering in this area. When we were there on Tuesday, when they were generating, that whole area was covered with water. You didn't even see the rocks and whatnot, and they were just kind of casting there. And you could see in some of the video that we had posted this past week some of that area. But we'll give some more details there here shortly. Other things is we did see a sign out there, something about it's illegal to transport some of these bait fish, be it shad or whatnot. I think it's because there's some big head, big something carp. We'll get a picture out there, but do keep an eye on that, because it looks like there's some new rules to keep in effect if you're working the tail race there because of some invasive species. So keep that in your back pocket while you're up there. Like we said, we had our cast net and anything at all, but we still had a fun time. All right, so on day one, they were generating. There was a lot of water flow, and it was 90 plus degrees. It was very hot, so we brought a lot of water, luckily, with us. The next day, day two, had a cold front come through, dropped the temperatures in the mid-60s, I think it was, and no water flow because they weren't generating, so that made a difference in, I guess, the pattern maybe. Did see some movement activity where some folks were catching them on both days. Just key difference was actually the same thing that we saw on both days was live shad was the key. Let's go ahead and shift over to some of these key things that we want to bring up when it comes to one day versus the other. So what a difference a day makes. In this case, what a difference a day makes while you're fishing the tail race when there is water flow as well as minimal of water flow. Okay, here we are coming up on the Texas side. It's stop 1 on this map, and this is when they were generating water. So this was on Tuesday, and then here is Wednesday when they're not generating water, and you can notice all the different pools, rocky areas, shallows. Definitely a different makeup, but you want to kind of keep this stuff in mind where these rocks are and some of these landmarks. And here we're just showing that you can cross over from the Texas to the Oklahoma side without having to take the highway that goes over the dam itself. So we're just kind of making our run from the Texas to the Oklahoma side. So we're on the Oklahoma side now, coming up to a parking area. Now we're going to go to our second stop, and this is this recreation-like area. You'll see it here on stop 2. Okay, so we call it again stop 2. All right, and here you see a lot of the water flow. Whole place is pretty much covered with water. And here's the next day, same place, no water. You can see a lot of the sandbars and whatnot. Okay, now we're just getting out of the stop 2 or parking area, and we're going to go up and around and head to what we call stop 3. It's like this little peninsula-like thing. So it's the upper parking area, and what we used to do is park in this spot, and then we'd walk down. And then we found out that you can go ahead and drive your car all the way through. And as you head down this roadway, that sign that we were mentioning, you'll see at stop 3, there's a sign that shows what is illegal and what you can't take when it comes to those bait fish. So here's the water flow. You can see everything coming through. This is one generator running, and here's the next day when no generators are running. And that little peninsula area right over here to the left is where we're standing in this next video, and you can see all the water flow and whatnot. And in that previous snapshot, I'm standing in the river itself, or where the river would have been flowing, and kind of showing a picture of where I'm standing. So here I am looking straight into the water in that previous photo. That's pretty good to know. You can see where there's a hump, so there's a little channel here when the water's up, and then a little shallow area, and then it kind of gets deep again, and then where there's a bunch of the pilings. Alrighty, so that was a good rundown as to what the place looks like before and after when they're generating. And there's a channel area right here where we're sitting in that previous picture. There's the channel, and we were just standing up on the shore. So we tried various flies without success. This is some buffalo that are in the shallows. Had one take. All right, got one. He went for it. Definitely went for it, but unfortunately went for the John Deere. All right, let's go bring him over here, away from his buddies. Let's go put a bend. Oh. Alright, so the other day we were over here, whole place was underwater. So this is the difference once I quit generating. So at this point we're going to try doing some bait fishing before we call it quits. Unfortunately, can't find any shad. That's the biggest thing. Went to the store and no shad, so we're going to have to catch our own. Hopefully we can get something out here at Denison. All right, so here it is with a lot of water again. Same spot where all that sand is. And oh, by the way, there's a little hole right in this area where on the second day we were there, they were catching them. So here we are again, generating water. You can see all the water. We're just going to come walk up to this one point at the base of the stairs on the Oklahoma side. And so you can definitely see the difference between when there's water flow and when there's not. And so there's a picture of a before or during and after. And you can definitely see a lot of structure, little rocky areas. Kind of explains why you'll lose your tackle a lot of times. And over here you'll see an individual standing, and you could pretty much see where the water line was. And so when they're not generating, where I'm standing at this point would be dry land. So we're just going to move up river a little bit closer to the dam. And again, here's a difference. A lot of water flow. And the next picture, seeing a lot of rocks and whatnot that are in the water itself that are normally underwater when they're generating. Here again is some more video of the river with the water flowing. Again, it's just one generator, and now here's no generation, same area. So you want to just keep it in your back pocket where these different dips and holes and whatnot are. And here I'm just kind of walking up the rocky area, and you can kind of see where the water is over here. And then when they're not generating, you can see the difference out off the dam itself. Looks like you can see where the water line is just changed. Here it is, generating water flow again. So the water line's up. Definitely see that the rocks and whatnot. We're going to go right up to the steps. So the water is coming right up to the first set of steps as you're coming down from the Oklahoma side, where the upper parking area is, or the overlook. Whole place has got water. And you can definitely see the generation there. Now we're kind of walking back, and this whole area has water. Earlier in that photo we showed, that this whole place has got, well, there it is. There's the picture. A moment ago we're standing and wading through it. Next day we're able to walk through no problem. Here the water's area's got water again, and that's where we were standing earlier in that first video. And here's another view. So you can definitely see how things change, and you can see different areas to target. Here's where I'm standing in this one video, and this is where I caught
another one,
this fish
on the Denison dam dauber. Alright, pretty big. Put a real good fight too. You can see some of these carp over here in the shallows. Just kind of working our way over. Maybe do some sight casting again. That was fun. Got that one earlier. Fortunately, we didn't get the action on video because our battery ran out, but we replaced the battery, so we're good now.
Okay, so here we are at the overlook, and you can see where folks are standing, and they're generating water at this case, or generating power. So the water's up. When the water's down, you'll see a whole bunch of these concrete blocks here. They're underwater currently. And here's when they're not generating. Same area. There's a good view. To the upper left is a view of the water flow, and to the right, or lower right, another view where there's no water flow. So you can see all these rocks in the middle of the river and whatnot. And some of these areas I've fished when fishing from the Texas side and done well there. Here we are generating water again, and there's no rocks visible, but they'll definitely hook up on your terminal tackle. So do be careful there. And finally, we'll just take another look from the Texas side. This is a day when they weren't generating water, so you know, because of all that rocky structure. And some of these places, you'll have some pretty good success wading out there. Just make sure you have your Oklahoma license. Oh, by the way, here's that it's illegal. Some of the shad that you can transport out of these waters. You got to be careful. Big head and silver carp. And they look pretty close to each other when it comes to a normal shad. So keep that in your back pocket. Make sure that you don't have that on you. Okay, here's a rundown of the area. Stop 1, that's the first stop in the video where we're overlooking from the Texas side the river. And then we'll just kind of head down this road here, cut across, and instead of having to go up on the highway, Highway 75A or 91, that you get to take this feeder road here and come around. So if you take this road, Highway 91. That's going to take you all the way across the dam itself into the Oklahoma side, and you'll have to come back around. A lot longer drive than if you just take this feeder road here. So you come around here. Here's the overlook where you can park up here and look down into this area where the discharge is normally. And then over here is where they generate the power flow. That's where the water flows there. In the second stop in the first part of this video, we're stopping right here. And this whole area right here was covered with water when they were generating power. Then later on it kind of receded. Now you can pretty much walk all along this whole area, to include these pilings that used to, or that are still there. I'm not sure what they were for, but you can definitely see that when the water's low. And then we'll come back around from stop 2, make that run up to that upper parking area, and then come to stop 3. We call it the peninsula, because you can start fishing here, fish this way, or downriver, upriver, cross river. Good vantage point. We've done okay there in the past. Where it seems to be, at least for striped bass for us, has been when we're using fishing flies and lures. Has been on the Texas side, working some of these areas when they're flowing. When they're not flowing, we pretty much hit these different pools and whatnot. When they are flowing and the fish aren't biting, we'll definitely try further downstream and try fishing this area here. Alrighty, hopefully this video has given some insight as to some of the differences when they're generating power and when they're not. You can definitely see some of the structure that you would normally not see when the water's flowing. And what we suggest is maybe take a look at the video, take a look at different spots from Google Earth, and kind of mark out some potential fish areas to try, and then give it a go. Our big lesson learned this round is definitely bring your bait before you go up there. We probably could have picked up some bait further down the road while we were coming through Sherman, but we also were just going to go back to fishing flies as well as lures if we didn't get any bait. Did bring the cast net, and unfortunately there was no shad to be caught with that cast net as well. And then the new lesson learned, big lesson, is illegal to transport some of those bait fish because of those big head and something carp that we noted in that one picture. All right, hopefully this helps, and do stay tuned. We'll plan on getting more of these podcasts, updates, and hopefully, like we say, learn to fish by our trials and errors. All right, next time we'll catch y'all later. Good luck, good fishing.